John Ryder got robbed on the scorecards against Calum Smith for the WBA Super and WBC Diamond Championship belts. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Ramstar Says So. Jesus Christ. I was wrong. I'm going to put my hands up and I'm going to say it. I was wrong about Calum Smith. He's not the real deal. He's not this great destroyer that I thought he was. I think him beating George Groves now, I think it just looks like he beat her over the hill, over the mill, finished, washed up, shriveled up George Groves, who went through war with Chris Eubank Jr. a few months prior. Calum Smith went into this fight as the clear favourite. 6'3". He had a clear reach advantage. John Ryder, 5'8". If you guys follow my channel closely, I said that Calum Smith needed to go out there and make a statement. I said that Calum Smith needed to get John Ryder out of there in 8 rounds. No such thing happened. John Ryder was robbed last night on the scorecards against Calum Smith in Liverpool. What makes this even more of a mockery is that both of them are matchroom fighters. But Calum Smith is the unbeaten, supposed face, good-looking guy, the marketable person, and it was within their best interest to keep that belt around the waist of Calum Smith. I don't know if you guys saw the fight, but John Ryder beat the living shit out of Calum Smith. I could not believe this was the same Mundo that I've been hyping up probably for about a year or so. How many Calum Smith videos have I made? I feel like taking them all down because to me, Calum Smith is a fraud. I even went as far as saying that if Calum Smith ever fought Canelo, I think he'd be too strong, too big, too powerful. Bollocks. Absolute bollocks. If Calum Smith was ever stupid enough to get in the ring with Canelo Alvarez, I think Canelo would dispose of him within 6 rounds. We've just seen what Canelo Alvarez did going up to 175, and yes, there may be a bit of an asterisk or a couple of questions that need to be answered, but realistically, Calum Smith, he hasn't got a chance. But let's get into this one, guys. John Ryder came out the traps, and he was a man on a mission. John Ryder knew that he needed to apply pressure, and he knew that he needed to knock out Calum Smith just to get a draw. That is a phrase that we seem to have floating around the boxing industry these days, because you know when you're up against it, when you're up against a favourite, especially in a favourite's hometown, sometimes you've got to knock a man out just to come away with a draw. John Ryder, in my opinion, won that fight unanimously. I had John Ryder winning probably 9 or 10 of the 12 rounds, if not all 12. Calum Smith really didn't do anything. John Ryder came out the traps and he was just laying the smackdown on him, hitting him with good combinations, 1s, 2s, double jabs, triple jabs, a few right hands. John Ryder's game plan, whoever his trainer is, I'm not too sure, they put together a game plan that worked to what I thought was perfection. When you look at the crowd, when you look at everything that was going on, watching this on Sky Sports last night, you could see that the crowd knew this was going one way. It was just ridiculous. Calum Smith just couldn't get in there. He tried to throw a few big bombs, but John Ryder was just evading them with ease. I couldn't believe this was the same John Ryder that's lost to Billy Joe Saunders, Nick Blackwell, George Groves. This was a completely different looking John Ryder. This was probably the best John Ryder we've seen in a while. I think John Ryder knew that this was probably his last chance saloon, and he wanted to go out on his shield, as they call it. The fact is, John Ryder woke up this morning and John Ryder left the ring and he wasn't the WBA Super and WBC Diamond Champion, and I don't know why, because John Ryder won that fight for me. He won that fight clearly. When you think about it, John Ryder literally dominated him from start to finish. I'm not 100% sure what was going on with the judges, and I think maybe it had to do with a little bit of Eddie Hearn dropping a few sort of brown envelopes here or there, but I think that John Ryder was hard done by. When you look at the scorecards, one judge had Calum Smith winning 117 to 111, one judge had, and the other two had Calum Smith winning 116 to 112. Where? On what day of the week did Calum Smith win 9 rounds? It just didn't happen. Now, I mean, if it was the other way round, with John Ryder becoming the new WBA super champion at super middleweight with those scorecards, then yeah, I could agree with that. But Calum Smith did nothing. John Ryder has been robbed of becoming a world champion, and I think that Mauricio Solomon really needs to go and watch this fight and call for an instant rematch. They need to roll this one back. The only thing is that Calum Smith looks ridiculous. He looks crap, and maybe this is the opportunity for Calum Smith to go and work out all the kinks in his armor. Because I do think Calum Smith definitely has the ability to fight a lot better fight than he fought last night. John Ryder literally just brought it to him, and Calum Smith didn't know what to do. One thing that we've learned about Calum Smith does not like to fight inside. He likes to fight mid to distance range. Because Calum Smith is usually the taller, longer guy, he likes to fight from his distance. And John Ryder wasn't allowing him to do that. John Ryder was sort of parrying off the jabs and coming in and working the body. Calum Smith was busted up. His eye was bleeding from, I think, the 3rd or the 4th round. And John Ryder was just giving him that work. I think if it wasn't for the fact that Calum Smith is probably about 8 inches taller than John Ryder, maybe John Ryder takes his chin off. But maybe because he could keep his chin up a little bit, it was easier. I think another thing with Calum Smith is that it's like he wasn't used to fighting the smaller men, which doesn't make any sense. At 6'3", being in the super middleweight division, I don't think there's many guys out there that are going to be the same height, if not taller, than Calum Smith. He must be used to fighting a shorter person. Realistically, what Calum Smith should have done is he should have been punching down and controlling the distance with his jab and his reach. Instead of that, John Ryder was just getting involved and getting in the middle and banging in the pocket at will. I don't understand what happened to Calum Smith. What made it worse is Calum Smith's brother was on the commentary, and after the fight finished, he said that he could only give 1 round to John Ryder. I don't know what kind of crack he was smoking, because to me, John Ryder should have woken up this morning in absolute ecstasy as the new WBA Super and WBC Diamond Champion. But no, what really happened is that John Ryder got robbed last night. That's the only thing I can really say about it. We should have had a new super middleweight champion, but we don't. Calum Smith sort of sails on. Eddie Hearn tried to gloss this one over and say maybe because of the poor performance, it now makes it easier for Calum Smith to get opponents. Now, for me, I don't know. It's a strange one because I thought that Calum Smith was the #1 super middleweight champion. But what can I say? Based off of that performance, I'd fancy Billy Joe Saunders to beat him in a unification. And don't be surprised if Eddie Hearn doesn't go and shove another pay-per-view down our throats. Don't be surprised if we're all paying £20 to watch Billy Joe Saunders versus Calum Smith at the Liverpool Football Stadium in the summer. Don't be surprised if that happens. Because you know what Eddie Hearn is like. Calum Smith looked appalling. I mean, that definitely wasn't his best performance. But maybe he just hasn't been fighting the right people. I mean, it's clear as day he fought a washed-up George Groves, and then he fought an Ndam who just wasn't in the right. I don't even think Ndam is a natural super middleweight. What would happen if he would have fought Benavidez or whatever that guy was, that big, bulky giant? He would have got ironed out. What happens if Calum Smith fights Caleb Plant or Benavidez? Who knows? Even Anthony Durrell. But I think Eddie Hearn does have a point on this one. It will make it a lot easier for him to get opponents to fight Calum Smith now, because Calum Smith looks like he has a bit of vulnerability there. And maybe Canelo Alvarez will be licking his lips. There's a lot of people saying that Canelo Alvarez isn't a true 4-weight world champion because he won the WBA regular title. Don't be surprised if Canelo goes back down to 168 and takes out Calum Smith now to become a true 4-weight world champion. What did you guys think of the fight? Let me know your comments anyway. Hit like, hit subscribe, share this video, and press the bell icon. That's the end of the show. because Remstar says so.